Hey everyone and welcome, I'm Robbie from the Insatiable Gamer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Dell G5 15-inch gaming laptop. This is the latest in a line of competitively priced gaming machines from Dell. If you've been in the market for a new laptop, you'll know all too well the struggle to find something decent that won't hit you too hard in the pocket. Against better judgment, and unlike pretty much every other reviewer that makes you wait until the end, I'm just going to say it first. This thing actually really nails the price to performance trait that I look for and is definitely a viable option for anyone after a really powerful but portable laptop. Though you should keep watching, as it does come with a couple of trade-offs that not necessarily deal breakers, but they do irk me a little bit. Let's talk about I/O first. On the left hand side of the machine we have a Noble lock slot, a 7.4mm 5mm jack, a full-size Ethernet port, one USB 3.1 Type A with power share, and a 2-in-1 SD and micromedia card reader. On the right hand side of the machine we have an HDMI 2.0 port, a USB Type C with Thunderbolt, two 3.1 USB Type A ports, and a headphone and microphone port. The Dell G5 comes in a couple of different SKUs. The US market seems to get a couple more, but seeing as we're over here in New Zealand, let's just look at what we can get because that's the information I have. The two variants differ primarily on the CPU. The cheaper one comes with a 45 watt TDP 4-core 8-thread 8th gen Core i5 8300H, which is a mobile processor. The more expensive one is again another 45 watt TDP chip. It's a 6-core 12-thread 8th gen Core i7 8750H. Both share the same GPU though, a Max-Q NVIDIA GTX 1060 6GB version. So you've got a fair amount of power. The model graciously sent to us from Dell is the higher end 6-core variant with a base clock of 2.2 GHz and a turbo of up to 4.1 GHz. This thing is really well equipped to take on anything you throw at it. I really love the Beijing red, the color. As much as my socially anxious self hates standing out in a crowd, I don't really go out, so it's not really an issue. Being a matte finish, though, not only makes it nice to the touch, it feels really nice and soft, but it also helps in hiding those greasy finger marks that other high gloss finishes like to showcase. Also a nice touch was the brushed metal finish on the palm rest. It adds a really nice premium feel and eliminates the sponginess around the keyboard that other notebooks are prone to. Speaking of the keyboard, it's actually not too bad to type on. The spacing of the keys is really nice, and it didn't take me much time at all to get up to full typing speed. Normally it takes me half an hour or so per new keyboard. It's not a mechanical keyboard, mind you, but the keys aren't overly mushy and have a nice sound signature. I'll have a clip somewhere so you can hear it. All in all, it's a very serviceable keyboard and I can dig it. The trackpad, on the other hand, could be far more usable. It's not inherently garbage, it works, it functions, it's just not that great. Misclicks were a pain in the ass and the overall size was on the smaller than preferable side of things. And saying that though, for how often the trackpad would be used, it's not really the end of the world. This is a gaming laptop after all, and you'd be an idiot to game without an actual mouse. In true review fashion, I'm going to slap all the bad stuff right in the center of a compliment sandwich. The worst thing about this laptop is the screen. I wish I had a calibration tool so that I could show the color inaccuracies rather than you just having to take my word for it, but it was very apparent. I will say though that the anti-glare, the matte finish on the screen, was really good at making it comfortable for viewing and gaming in most lighting situations. So that was kind of a nice thing, but it's just not great at all for any sort of video or photo processing. If you're after something for professional use, you're definitely going to need a monitor. Other than the screen though, the hardware setup is more than powerful enough for video editing or the like. I'll also point out that the hinge is really nicely balanced with the weight of the laptop and takes a single finger to open. Thankfully, this is actually probably one of the easiest laptops I've ever had to open. It's a single screw. You'll have to excuse this real cheap kit of screwdrivers. I fixed it, you should definitely hook it up. Anyway, it's a single screw and one single panel that comes off very, very easily. Just pry up, pull away, done. So inside the machine, a moderate sized battery, which seems to be okay. It's always a hard trade-off though, whether you get a larger battery or a large storage space. Regardless, it is a 56 watt hour battery. When you compare it to something like the Razer Blade with an 80 watt hour battery, it's a bit small. But given the expandability options, on top of having an M.2 256 gig solid state drive, you also have a 1TB 5400 RPM drive as well. The RAM is upgradable. This model comes with two 8 gig 2066 sticks, and the cheaper model comes with two 4 gig 2066 sticks. The cooling solution was actually a lot smaller than what I thought it was going to be based on the numbers that we got while benchmarking. There's a fair bit of copper in there though, that you can hopefully see. It's a wee bit weighty though, and using my highly accurate kitchen scales with a real tight recipe on it, we can see it comes in at around 2.8 kilos. It's a wee bit heavier than some of the closer competitors, but I am also not about to fat shame a laptop. Okay, you've been on the hook for long enough. Now let's get into some gaming benchmarks and chat some numbers that might shed light on why this thing impressed me so much. So up first we have GTA 5, because it's the crisis of our generation, running at 1080p and everything maxed. So as much as pretty graphics are real nice to look at, they're also really difficult to make. So let's just talk about this last pass here, the min, max and averages. So we got a low of 16 frames per second, a max of 81.3, and the average was 43.37. All of those are totally playable. I was actually really impressed with how this thing performed, considering I have a 1080 Ti in my main rig. This was actually pretty decent. Very impressed. We did manage to cripple it a wee bit more with Time Spy, reaching some somewhat unplayable lows here, as you can probably see just from the screen here. Obviously this is just the trial version, but at least it gives you some sort of indication on how it's going to perform for the games that you want to play. As you can see here, the CPU test fared a wee bit better, being an 8750H. Even though it's a mobile processor, it's still got 6 cores, it turbos up to 4.1, and it did quite well. So while we're on that CPU buzz at the moment, we smashed it with IDA 64 as well. Trial version, obviously, because, you know, we don't make money yet. You probably can't see from the window because I wasn't sure on my framing. Also, the lighting sucks in this, but I'll let you know the temperatures now anyway. So it actually ended up turboing up to about 3.4, 3.5, then hit a thermal limit at 100 degrees and then dropped back down to sitting around 2.8 for most of the test. I let the test run for about 37 minutes or so, just so things would stabilize. Temperatures were sitting quite nice and pretty at about 69 degrees for most of the test. And again at 2.8 gigahertz, which was pretty alright. For the cooling solution that I saw inside the machine, I'm quite well impressed. Then just for added extras, we had Heaven running on loop for about another 40 minutes or so. As you can see here, the frame rates, you know, as with Heaven in different scenes, fluctuate a lot, but the most important thing here is watching the temperature. It managed to get up to about 62 degrees and was holding very steady there. Keep in mind it is winter here and it's a little bit colder outside. I think ambient temperature was around 18 or so degrees because I'm poor and my power bill's high enough as it is. So I've been using this machine now for about 2 weeks, writing reviews, playing games, and I tried video editing, but I did end up using one of my other monitors. It's awesome, like genuinely awesome. I've been looking for a laptop for quite a while now, mostly for my wife. But this thing has jumped straight up to the top of the list. It's hit that price point right where I want to see it, where I get a 1060, I get a hexa-core processor, I get something quite powerful for quite a reasonable price. At the moment, I believe it's on sale on Dell's website for around $2,300, which is kind of actually where I wanted to spend on a laptop anyway. The only real trade-offs with this, as opposed to other competitors, is one, it's quite weighty, so portability may be an issue if you're having to lug it to and from course every day. For me, that's not an issue, and even when it was an issue when I was studying, I wouldn't really care. Like, make something weighty as long as it's got the performance to back it up. As far as the screen trade-off goes, I'm not overly concerned either. I have a dedicated rig for editing, so it's not a big bugbear for me. This is just perfect for being portable, for being, I was going to say lightweight, but I just said it's heavy as balls. But it's something portable that I can take and still have like really, really decent gaming performance. What's another reason I'd buy this?
Everyone knows read wavelengths go faster.
Read wavelengths go faster. Cool. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. That's where we're going to end it. If you like this video, leave a like on it. If you dislike it, don't dislike it. It's real disheartening. Subscribe to the channel. We've got more content coming all the time. If you head on over to our Facebook page at the moment, The Insatiable Gamer, you'll find we have a giveaway going for Spider-Man. I think the embargo's lifted. Cool. You should also like us on Instagram and on Twitter. And that's it. Stay tuned. Thanks very much. See you in the next one. What do you say to close out a YouTube video?
Don't dislike it, you'll make him cry.
Well, you won't cry, you'll laugh.
No, I'm like, that's what you would say. Please don't dislike it, I cry enough already.
You can't tell an audience that, or they're just gonna go do it.
Do you like this video or cry? I don't know.
Thanks, bye.